Introduce myself to the people who don't know. My name is Ryan Adams. I live at 219 Hunter Hill Circle. As I had presented in the, I guess more in the second letter, I've been at Hunter Hills since 2016. My wife and I have four kids, and this past summer, just to give you a little background, when we were sitting around during the quarantine, and we had the idea about doing the food truck, and want to try to set something up like that. In the midst of the conversation, or somewhere before or after, I had known that Mr. Ferguson had wanted to not be the HOA president, and not something that I want to do, but it was more something that I was willing to do. And from August, to going through January, the last or the next thing to occur, Tracy had called me one night as a means to talk about things going on in the neighborhood with kids kind of crossing over the street, something that need to be addressed. And so I kind of did my introduction through that on the Facebook group, and had put in there that within the next 5 weeks or so we'd like to have a meeting. We go up to February, no meeting had been called, and if I was to be the president, then I had no control over anything as to where money, anything to that degree. And from the neighbors who I've talked to, a conversation was on the idea that if things had not been done in recent years, that we would start fresh. We go to about a month and a half ago, and Mr. Ferguson and I went to the bank to add myself onto the account. Because Mr. Horton is deceased, in order for me to be added to the account, we would have to have a death certificate, and so we created a new account. I created the HOA Gmail account. Wanted to create the idea of a Venmo to be able to have fees come in easier. The next day, Mr. Ferguson comes by, and all the material that's up here is what I was given. These are copies of letters from 2018 that has on their fees and where they had gone up by a 5% increase, and that letter that had never gone out to any of the homes, that's what I had gone by when I sent out that first letter. After those first ones went out, that's where there was a myriad of response, whether it be people who were just, now I know what I owe, okay, to other responses that had no idea that we even had an HOA. From whenever they had moved into the neighborhood, their real estate agent had not made them aware, or they didn't know. And others that had the response that my possession of any of this material, without having a recorded meeting where people voted on it, that it was not legitimate. And so with that, Terry had contacted me and informed me about Malaya as to what her company does as far as HOA management. And so I contacted her, and we have been in conversation. All right, here's what we know is correct. Here's what we know is not correct. Am I legitimately the president? Yeah, based on everything that I know, no. I'm just right now. I'm just another neighbor that has possession of items that called a meeting. As I put in the second letter out to everybody, and I wanted to make sure that I got that out there to this is not something that I want. This is not something that I need. But also, I do not think, because looking back at previous meetings that have been held, the last one that I found recorded was from 2005. From issues dating back to 97, 98, in those minutes that were held, it was the same, what I would imagine, controversies that still exist today. And so I believe in doing what is right, more so than just being right. And just cleaning my hands at this and saying, forget it, is also not the right thing to do. So I wanted to go ahead with this meeting tonight. And as I said then, and I truly believe, for those people that were closing recently, which is the Keens, and who else? Yeah, the Hewitts, and we got the Kellers coming up. I knew that I had a responsibility to them to make sure that the only money that has come in recent years has been off the houses that has sold recently, that were settled at closing. And so I wanted to make sure that I had something for their closing, because there had been dues in the past. With the last known fee that I could find on record was $28.50. And so for both the Keens and for the Hewitts, I readjusted the numbers to fit that that price point. All right, and that's the money that has come in. For a few of the other people who have paid what was in that original that original letter, I know that I've talked to Keith. That money was put into the account. That way, it's not sitting with me in my Venmo, or that would have checks in my hand that are just they're nothing to do with, that they actually went through into the bank. That money's in the bank, and I have I got a receipt book right here. I got a checkbook right here. That if it is decided to credit forward. If it's decided that you want to refund of back of what's owed, we're here to make things right. But further, we also have to talk about what we want to do moving forward as a group. And our options are simple. We can either organize, because some of us have been in this neighborhood a lot longer than others. And regardless as to when we move in or move out, Hunter Hills is still going to be there. And if we can either handle stuff now collectively and organize things to the information that we have to do it right, or we cease to exist. And eventually, the light at the front of the neighborhood Eventually that light goes out. And if anything happens to the sign, I mean, then we're just neighbors. And if that's the decision that the group, because I'm not the person to make that decision. If that's the decision that the group decides, I'm with y'all. All right, I'm here, same as you guys. I'm here in support of, because y'all, we have something, I mean, we have a great neighborhood. I think we all know that. I think that the fact that we have so many people here is because we enjoy where we live. And I think collectively, and I'm assured of this, you know, I believe in our community. I believe in that we would make the best route forward for us. And, you know, I'm here to be in support of that fact. For my opinion, for what it's worth, do I believe that there are benefits to having an HOA? I do. If done correctly, I think there can be benefits, because the purpose of an HOA is to maintain the property values of all of our residents, to keep things you know, in an organized fashion, all right, and to make sure that things don't go awry. Now, we are nowhere near the size of Eagle Point, but the neighborhoods that were affected last week, some of our friends that were definitely impacted by the tornado, in the aftermath, people come together. And if something was to happen, if it came through our neighborhood, and what we had back in the fall, that morning, you know, I was born and raised in Louisiana. When hurricanes come through, it's something that I always knew to have and to do. If you got a chainsaw, you go out there and you find somebody that's possibly in a worse condition than you are. We went over to the Orr's house. They had the oak tree fall, and there were already people over there helping out. So I went around to the other parts of the neighborhood and see where I could help out. That's what I want to do. That's what I intend to do. Regardless if it's in association with a homeowners association or not. And I think that all of us would be in the position to do the same. But I wanted to talk with y'all and for us to open up. I know people have concerns. All right, let's discuss those concerns, and let's talk about what the possibilities could be for all of us moving forward. And for those who cannot be here, Johnny has this recorded. That way we can post this for all of our neighbors who are not present, so they can be informed as to what's going on. But yeah, I guess right now I'd like to open up to the floor to address certain concerns, and if we have answers, I do want to give time for Ms. Barton to discuss what her group and you know, honestly why she's here by my side as to what we can do moving forward. So, yeah, open up to the floor for questions or concerns up front.
First one from New York, so I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
So I don't know how many show of hands, I know my wife was, but I was at that last meeting. I don't know if any, yeah, okay. Wasn't good, but, and, you know, there was a, you know, I don't want to start the negative. You're doing a positive thing on the forward. I appreciate you, what you're trying to do. So I'm trying to make that better. I don't know why I'm saying this.
No, you're good. You're good.
2005, probably.
Yeah, I think it was more 2006, 7.
2015 or something.
Well-
We moved here in 2016, and we had.
Okay.
that-
So it had to have been the
Well-
2016.
There was a.
It was
bus
15.
that-
Yeah.
I can-
Anyways,
I can tell you my last one was definitely 2007. And the gentleman that was the president and the gentleman that was, you know, God rest his soul, that was the vice president then, you know, we have the covenants, they had the original covenants and these things, and people, they have an HOA, and they were like, well, you've got this big trailer in your driveway, you got this, and they wanted money, and then the people were like, we're not paying for anything for the HOA. So then came the lights. Well, I did see the lights go dark in Hunter Hills before, because he turned them all off. So that time I put the light I put it in my wife's name, so all right. So, okay, I'll just turn the light back on.
Yeah, that's
So,
like our cul-de-sac.
so just to give you a little bit of that chaos, which is not a problem that you're stepping forward to try to make better, that's the problem with people who say, you owe this money or this money, and people told them, we're not going to pay, there is no HOA, this is kind of BS, we're not going to do it. And so that's where you got, for anybody who's there, I don't know, I want to speak for anybody else, but that you have that from people that have been here for a long time.
Well, and a little more color to that is we asked about what needed to be done to take action against some of the glaring things that were happening, and we were told there wasn't enough money to do anything about it because it cost money, and so we said, well then where is the money? Show us. And that's when things stopped. I would say for me, I mean, I've kind of gone through my old covenants and looked without just going through a laundry list of small things that if we talked to our neighbor, they probably would do. My major concern is that a house was allowed to be sold that is now rental property. And the original covenants say that is a no-no. So what can be done? Now, you know, we can't go back to the prior owner, it's not theirs.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's a major concern of any, it's a huge concern for me. And so maybe from your information, Malia, what can we do?
Because covenants were changed, because I know there's other ones out there, but I can only go to what I have. And when did that occur when those were voted on? You know what I mean? So it's like, how did that change?
I can address a few of those because let's say that when I sent out that first letter, I became informed very fast as to the history, that was part of, again, why in the second letter I said that for all money, hold off, because that is absolutely correct. You know, if there was a covenant and it had not been enforced, then a 5% increase in dues that had not been discussed or voted on could also not be enforced. And
The original covenant says it can just happen unless it's voted down.
and that was from the conversation that I had received from Mr. Jim, but there's also other things in that covenant that has gone unnoticed or undone, you know, for years. So, you know, that reaction, y'all, it's natural. I mean, I can't disagree. But yeah, in that, because I know that's part of the things that can be addressed. If there's any other comments from the floor before Malia kind of presents to us what she's got.
Actually, I have a question, kind of on you, too, on renting, because believe me, it's next door to me. I don't want it. But technically, all we can go off of, and I'm in real estate, so I know, what's filed in Shelby County. And it says nothing about that.
Yes, it does.
The first one, single family,
Yeah,
That's
single
not-
family residential.
it doesn't make renters, unfortunately. Single family really just means you don't have a shared wall with another
So
dwelling.
residential is
Can be
rental.
rental. If it's, yeah. So
We're going to
It's
make I won't
misinterpreted.
rent them.
It's misinterpreted because single family people think one family.
Well, no, I interpreted residential.
In residential, it can, a home unfortunately can be rated. I mean, I don't like it at all. But that's where, you know, if it had been done the right way, when these covenants were done by Rodney, I don't even know if he's still alive, they would have been turned over when all of the lots were sold, which they were, and bylaws would be done. And that's when he would enact no rentals in your neighborhood. So it kind of stinks. I mean, it does, because they're next door to me, believe me.
Well, there's actually
But
three
you
rental
can't-
houses.
Well, yeah,
I don't know, but that's
Really?
That's only the one that's not cleaned up. There's
I know
three.
there's another one down.
There's three. The first house when you come in, on the left,
No,
was a
they're
rental.
not running anything.
Or did they buy?
They bought.
Okay, so then there's two. then.
There's two.
Okay.
It's unfortunate, I know. I mean, but single family in the real estate world, for covenants just means not a shared wall, like a duplex or a condo or something like that, with another residence.
Well, and that kind of brings up a thought that I've never really thought through myself, is you've got interpretations and you've got reasons for your interpretations. At some point, maybe there's, okay, here are the covenants, and this means, and there's a little bit more, this is how they're interpreted, I mean, everybody interprets this way. And it could be that you guys all get together and go, but we don't like that wording, we're gonna ratchet it down a little bit. And you can amend your covenants, but you've got to have an awful lot of a percentage of, I don't know, okay, let me back up and say, when I'm talking about HOAs that have registered and they're corporations and they have bylaws, and that's where a lot of the structure comes from. And that's where, in my opinion, everything went wrong here, is the developers did not incorporate and give you that structure. So you've got covenants which run with the land, and they are enforceable if there's someone to enforce them. And technically you owe some money. How much might you owe? You know, who knows? You know, back to, was it the same amount? I mean, whatever was last official, you probably owe that amount for each year that hasn't been paid. And if you sold your house, it would go back to that time frame. But anyway, my thought is, maybe we do need to look at the covenant, or you guys need to look at the, okay, let me back up and tell you that I'm not here to make a sale, okay? I got more work than I can do already. But I was being questioned about things, and it's like, that's right, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, this is bad. And I just kind of jumped in and said, can I help? So I'm not here to, you know, I'm here to help. So don't be thinking I'm looking for money, okay? So, you know, but anyway, that makes me feel better that y'all know that now. So,
So if I'm understanding correctly, the HOA was never registered.
Correct.
So
the
it's not
covenants
registered.
were recorded.
But those are totally different than HOA.
Right.
Covenants are done by Denver.
Right.
You have to have those when you develop any parcel of land
Right.
into residential use.
Right.
So that's just basically how you can make things happen in the neighborhood. And then,
It's probably just a copy and paste from one covenant. or one-
I would assume, so he did Lime Creek, and I'm a nerd, and I'm in real estate. I've checked the Secretary of State, I've checked everything. He switched over everything for Lime Creek and for Wednesday.
He did do everything?
He did. It's
So
they're a
why not
registered.
house?
It's a register, I don't know, it's a registered, what you have to do is like $150, you're gonna have to register with the Secretary of State and become a 501c.
It's not a
And-
50, it's a nonprofit organization, but it's not.
Is it not a 501?
It's
Okay,
not,
well, I know it's
We're
not.
not.
it's a different,
Is it 128? It might be 128.
I don't even know
Whatever
what
it
it's
is,
HOA.
yeah, so you
It's
have
an
to do
HOA.
that. You have to do that, yeah, it's nonprofit, so you don't have to do taxes, but yeah, to have that.
You do
done.
have to file a tax return.
You have to file a tax return, I mean, you just have to do the 128 form to show your tax exempt status to your elite.
It's a
So we are registered
1128.
as an HOA or we are not?
They're not, there is not an HOA.
All right, just for the minutes.
There's not. There's covenants that have Rodney Davis's name on them, and it's got the map.
And then my
And
other question is what is the HOA account right now, the money that's in there, what is that paying for other than the lights at the entrance?
You got it, that's
That's
it.
it.
That's it.
Can I ask you a question? How is there an account in homeowners association?
Yeah, if there's
Because
no.
you have to have a
it's
tax
not
ID for that. I mean, does somebody?
There's no tax ID, they didn't register with Secretary of State, and then, but it's complicated now. If you said we want to do it, in the meantime, there's an HOA law that was enacted, it was effective 1/1 of 2016, and it's got a lot of requirements in it. But my big concern is anytime, if you've got okay, Ryan, I guess technically, sort of, kind of right now, if something went wrong, he's an officer, he's personally responsible because there's no corporation sheltering him, there's no insurance, there's nothing. So to me, it's like, don't do anything, anything, or do it right. And it's not super expensive, and there are some rules and regulations, but the tax return is 1120H, it's one page, and it's got 10 numbers on it. Big deal. Now, accountants charge you $300 to do it, but it's, I mean, I can do them in 10 minutes, and I don't even, my clients aren't charged extra for that, but, and I'd help, I'll help, it's a 10-minute thing, but, it's $275
To do what?
to register with the state. You don't need an attorney. I mean, if you go down to Shelby County to register an LLC or a corporation, they're gonna hand you a piece of paper and say, this is how you do it, you don't need an attorney. And I've got the instructions, so, and we register them all the time, but, $275. I have an insurance agent that insures, an HOA that I do that's 52 homes, and it's $601 a year, and that's general liability and directors and officers coverage. So that not only is the protection of the corporation, but you also have insurance that would cover errors or whatever. And
Okay, I'm sorry to keep asking. So the 2 lights are the only thing, the lights that run into the only thing that money's paying for. How much is that per month?
$43
Okay,
roughly.
so if we continue, move forward with an HOA and we continue paying dues, then what is that money going towards? Because $43 a month and you're getting 50 something per.
Well, I think it's streetlights too. It's not just.
Lights are on.
No, I mean, but some lights are.
Well, that shouldn't be the case, because I paid $10 a month for 15 years, so I got a good credit union, if that's the case.
Yeah, same with us.
I think all the street lights are.
And it has to be,
They
like
have
I
to pay
said,
for it.
I did my research, I've spoken with Alabama Power, it has to be either it has to be tied to a meter on a property, unless you take all of them and put them together. So it's either all or nothing, like,
What about the Christmas lights in the front?
I'll get you an LED wreath next year.
Are you saying each
Are you paying the light bill
somebody's
now?
paying?
I pay yours, yeah.
Yeah, as of right now, I mean, and again, this is now the stuff in the last month. The only thing that I found out that we were paying for was the light. And right now, that's the only thing that,
But we are paying, you are at
Yes.
that account paying a monthly $43 check.
yes.
So all the other money that we've given, where'd it go?
Do you have trans, do you have information?
I got all the bank statements that we have right,
That's kind
yeah.
of my question too. If there's an account open with Alabama Power and in a bank somewhere, it's gonna be tied to somebody's social security number. You can't just walk into a bank or to Alabama Power and open up an account without having a social or tax ID.
Maybe he didn't.
Sarbanes-Oxley, you can't open anything other than a personal account without a tax ID.
So,
And articles of incorporation and the whole thing,
so what's the account?
So right-
Alabama Power have an account in Hunter Hills homeowners.
It's just been there for so long and they don't have a clue.
It's probably the developer's social security number tied to it, if I had to
Probably.
guess. Probably, yeah.
Yeah, and
If
Kind of my general thing.
Sorry, go ahead.
if we formed the HOA, just by the rules and the covenants, a lot of people are, I mean, our neighborhood looks nice, everybody keeps their properties up, but a lot of people are gonna end up having stuff kind of go against them. I mean, like campers and all, and it don't look bad though.
not necessarily, because what would come with that incorporation is a development of bylaws done by us.
So it wouldn't necessarily be the same.
That's correct.
What, you talking about the covenants?
Yes.
The covenants can be amended.
Okay.
They just have to be recorded to be, and it takes a large majority of the, I mean, it might be 90%, I don't know what Well, again, what are your
Yeah,
rules?
that's not in here, you have to make.
It says 2/3 for changing fees. I'm going by the only one recorded in Shelby County.
Yeah, some of this is
the
just
only
silly.
legitimate office.
We also,
Regardless of how
regardless of how things were registered, tax ID, social security number, I am interested in how much is it gonna take to go forward. I agree, where has the money gone since 2003? This is when mine was dated. I know not you, we're not, but it's,
We've been here since 1997. Our house was the last one,
okay,
so we've been here a lot of years.
okay.
So how do we find that out?
And we
Do you
didn't
know
have,
how we
and
find
then he
out?
moved
I-
to Belleville.
You got all the,
Yeah, I got,
We had no place to put it.
I'm a CPA, you want me to do an audit?
But that,
I don't think we need to pay for audit. I think there should be, if they're monthly bank statements.
If you don't know where that is now, can we have that as an action item? Because I think that's very important to know who got that money.
mhm.
And then,
And is-
like this, I'm sorry with people's masks on and stuff, it's hard. This lady that said, the current violations, I agree. There are some, I don't want it all. There are some that are fine. And so what's the proper way to go about deciding who gets to be grandfathered, who has to make a change? From a property standpoint, we have followed these and we've given up things we wanted because we can't have a boat in our driveway and we can't have, things like that, but, and hand to God, I'm not throwing you under the bus.
That's all right.
No, I promise.
But I
No,
broke every rule that's in that covenant, so I mean.
Most people
I have no problem with that.
But,
We're not an HOA though.
so if I was gonna, if it was coming to me and I looked around the neighborhood, well, Johnny and Yvonne are my friends and they keep their yard nice and their family goal is a noble one, so they get a pass. That's what I would vote for. So, what's the right way to go about doing this?
And y'all, to speak as frankly as possible, the fact that I'm in this position right now, and pardon me, it scares the hell out of me. Because honestly, I just wanted to be in a position to help. I had no idea what all this was, what all was done in the years past. And if I certainly felt that as things were kind of thrown into my lap onto this, that I walked into a nasty situation. And not going to say much else, but they say if you're going to walk into a storm, I guess I should have checked the weather beforehand. But right now liability it's sitting on me, and
I think it is, because you weren't technically elected. I really would worry about that technically.
City Hall is deferred to the law.
I don't think you're gonna get a visit tonight.
No.
But for instance, if I'm gonna make up a story, because I don't know what else could happen, so I'm gonna go simple. The entrance sign. Say a child was climbing on the entrance sign and something came off on it, threw the child off, and the child is hurt badly. If that family chose to sue, everybody has to pitch in. You're still liable for things that are common, and that.
I really like to fight that.
But what I'm telling you is you need protection
Yeah,
of
but
some
can't we
sort.
just have that sign part of the city or something maybe?
I'm sorry?
Can you reallocate that portion where the sign is to see if it would be part of the city instead part of the subdivision? Just, it's a sign. A lot of signs are in
But
neighborhoods.
it was
that
put
are
up
old.
for the neighborhood by the developer. I mean, there are some really good articles if you'd like to read some of them about that kind of thing. And this I only did 10 of them and I wrote on one of them, I'm sorry. But there's some really good things there about liabilities if you choose to not do it. This article is, do you incorporate or do you not? And this opened my eyes on a couple of things. I wouldn't have thought, you're saying no back there, and I would have said no too, but I think it's probably true.
Well, I've heard similar things as far as not having a fence around pools and things like that.
Basically, it says incorporation protects everybody. If you don't incorporate, you're like a partnership. And in a partnership, one partner does something wrong, the other partners might have to pay if they're sued. So, would it happen? I don't know, but it's something to keep in the back of your minds when you're making a decision.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, if we were then to incorporate and have this potentially $600-ish, then that insurance would cover?
The entity protects you because the entity is it's a separate being. So you're not a partner of that, you're like a shareholder of that. So nobody can come after you individually for what this was responsible for. And you can't buy insurance like business insurance without being incorporated or an LLC, but you want to be a corporation because that's a nonprofit corporation. I checked with the insurance agent that I work with the most and asked him, would he give me a quote? And he said, I can't even give you a quote because it wouldn't be insured.
Okay.
So this is mostly over a sign.
No, I just use that as an example.
I'm just wondering, could we tear the sign down? And it'd just be an empty spot, and we just have the street name?
Actually, I'm interested in that because we back up to the creek and we own a fair amount of property behind our house. And we constantly are having to monitor kids going back there because we're afraid someone's gonna get hurt.
So the incorporation though wouldn't, that's your personal property.
Yeah, I was just on that
So that incorporation won't protect you from that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true. But
Just common areas.
is there,
Please don't let your children come behind our house.
do you have any common areas other than the sign?
No.
Does anybody know that? There's not?
Just a sign.
Does everybody understand that sign is about to fall down?
I just use that as an example, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's not far from falling down.
Oh,
It's
It
really not
needs-
in that
it-
bad shape. I've looked at the other day. Took a picture of the meter numbers.
Put a full level on
Also, the $43 light could be fixed with a solar powered light, a spotlight to put up there. We can take away that $43.
Yeah, 3 years
I
ago,
paid
$43
$43 to have a good light, yeah.
Yeah, I would too, because I
Yeah.
lived there without a light, and it's
And
no
that's,
fun.
yeah.
That's not a good thing.
So can you give us any advice on, or information around that if we do decide to incorporate, because I've heard some things about what if we don't, but if we were to decide to incorporate and include some things that would grandfather, if you've already done this, you're grandfathered in.
but that's two different issues. Covenants run with the land, and technically, everyone should be following the covenants. A structure can help you get together and vote and change the covenants to something that everybody can live with.
So even if we incorporate and have an HOA, the covenants are still in effect?
They're in effect until they're changed.
Okay.
They run with the
Are you
land.
saying that we cannot change them unless we're a registered HOA?
You could change them, but you would have to go to every home and get a vote on the new covenants. Because you'll have to have enough people agreeing to change them to then be official and be recorded.
So what would keep us from doing that and coming here together to meet on it, but not being registered? I'm not advocating one way or another, but we can change the covenants without being a registered HOA, is that right?
It's a decision. You can be unincorporated or incorporated. It's kind of like, you just got to figure out what the rules are.
But you don't have the protections, is really the bigger driver to be in a registered HOA.
Well, and you don't have a framework to say what are the rules.
That's
I
not-
mean, the covenants are the rules for each individual, but there's no rules for the group.
Well, who made it, like, who, so we have covenants on our property for these things. Who's in control of that? Like, who's gonna go and say, you're out of covenants, like, I know if the HOA president enforces it, who's enforcing covenants?
Nobody.
Without a registered HOA.
Who has authority?
With the former president, Johnny should do it that way, but it'd be all right.
Jacob,
Well, I mean, it would have been Mr. Ferguson.
But even-
And I wish he was here
me too.
because I don't want to talk behind his back. I think my personal opinion, is one of the worst offenders. And so things just went to the wayside.
But even Mr. Ferguson, if the HOA is not registered, then how can he enforce it? Because there is no president of, because it was voted in.
Jacob, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to clear some confusion. How can there be how can the covenants actually even matter if there's not even an HOA? I don't understand that.
That was
How
my
can
question,
how can the covenants even, like, who cares what a piece of paper says? We're not even an HOA.
Because when you've got the covenants, if your neighbor doesn't like what you're doing, he can sue you.
Okay, where does the covenants come from?
Do it.
The land. It comes
So
with the
that's-
land.
Yeah, that's-
But didn't you say that they weren't even registered with the,
No, the covenants
Probate?
were. The covenants are registered in Shelby County.
Okay.
And they run with the land. So when you signed your deed, you were signing that you would follow those covenants,
Okay.
whether you knew about them or not. And that's,
But I looked through all my paperwork when all this HOA came up, and when I asked my realtor, and I know what, Ryan, I know what you said about the realtor didn't listen, so I asked my realtor, the realtor said that she'd look into it, she came back and said, there's no HOA. We moved in, we find out that there is an HOA, but just there's not.
the proper question was, are there covenants?
Right.
Not, yes, there wasn't a formal HOA, so she answered it correctly. She probably went to the Secretary of State site, wasn't there. She said, okay, there's not one. But you didn't know what the question was, but the question was, are there covenants? Is this a covenant controlled area?
Right, so is there any legal documentation that has to be presented to a buyer of some sort saying that there are covenants? Like, is there any law saying that, like, someone has to show a buyer what they're getting into so that way they can make a decision saying, do I want to buy a house that's within a covenant that's not an HOA, because then it's unincorporated, because now I'm accepting responsibility if something happens.
Unfortunately, there's an HOA law, but it only really is enforced against the people who, against the HOAs that register with the Secretary of State. You're under the radar right now. So there's no law. A good real estate agent lets people know. A good real estate agent looks to see if there's a management company and calls the management company and berates them until they give them everything that they need. Because I've been berated, I understand this. And there is at closing, if a good closing attorney or title company is doing it, there is a form that's signed that says, I understand that this is an HOA if they have been informed that there is one. And if a good title company was doing the research, they had looked for covenants at the county and they saw the covenants and they would say, yes, they'd even say there's a HOA because there were covenants registered, I believe.
So did
You agree with
get
that?
That's
covenants when you
correct,
moved in?
But
Is that
No,
what you're
I
saying?
didn't, see, I was under the impression that there was no HOA. This is one of the reasons why
And
I
see,
wanted to buy
okay.
the house, because I don't really care for HOAs. Now, we can have a discussion about whether HOAs are needed or not, and my personal opinion is based off of experience in the past of why I don't care for HOA. If I leave my trash can out for too long, am I gonna get, a notice or a warning that I left my trash can out too long? Like, I'm a responsible adult. Like, I'm gonna take care of my yard, I'm gonna take care of my house, I'm gonna do what I can, but what I'm not gonna do is, I'm not gonna spend a pretty penny in order to make my grass or my weeds turn into grass.
Right.
Like, I just don't
But
have the
I
money
was
to
just
do that.
trying
so I'm not gonna
to
spend it.
clarify, you've never got a copy of covenants or anything?
I didn't get anything.
Okay, that's all I was wondering.
We got a copy when we signed for our house.
I'm Carol Dodson. I live at 534 Hunter Hills Way, and I've been there, I think, since 2010. And I do have some transaction information from 2003. But you know, we've been here over 45 minutes discussing the same things. I think it might be wise to get, and I hear a lot of knowledgeable people, get a committee together to work on these whatever they are, and to come back together and get more households to attend when they know what we're going to be talking about.
But that was a problem in the past, is nobody committed to go to any HOA meetings anyways.
That's right.
So they kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah, well, that's because we talk about the same
Yeah, and
things
it's-
over and over.
I'm impressed on how
And
many
the people that were in
got
charge
there.
of the HOA did a good job with what they had, but at the time, I guess, a lot of the residents just were like, we're not getting anything for it. So, I mean, I have an issue with some of the things that were passed out about 2 weeks ago that was presented to, I don't know how many homeowners are here that have past due. I have a past due. So if you're not aware, if you're not aware that at some point in time, if you owe due, somebody has put a lien against your house without you, one, being presented, saying, here, you need to pay your dues, and we're
Let's
going to put a lien
discuss
on
this
it.
right now.
Huh?
Let's discuss what he's saying right now. Cause what he's saying.
Because there's a legality with that
is-
covenants within an HOA, if you have the law on your side to be able to put that to a title company and put a lien on my house. When the HOA was not providing anything within the covenants to any of the residents.
I know you got here a little late.
So
today, Joe.
$35 a year, where's that money going and what's it for? Never stood out. It used to be for lights. Lights were turned
So
off
that's the
because
next
the HOA didn't do it, and I took over our cul-de-sac light for 5 years. And I was-
We got an action item because we don't know where the money went, and so that was written down, and we don't really know how to find out what we're going to, so can't answer that today. And what we talked about just before you came in maybe was that, we are actually not a registered HOA.
Gotcha. So there's no guidelines for somebody to put a lien on somebody's house?
There's no lien on your house because that would have taken effort. from
Well, listen, hold on. Miss Wilson, when Miss Wilson sold her house, there was a lien for $300 on her house. So there's been liens put on some of these houses without anybody's knowledge, unless you can go check with your title company.
That's one of the law, and the 2016 law is just for cases like that. But they can only, I mean, I'm not trying to say yes or no to y'all, but the protections that come with it, and the fact that then you have a law that you can say, here's a law that says do this, the HOA must follow it. It's all good. There are a couple of things in there I don't love, but for the most part, the law is protecting you guys, but the law can't help you unless you're a registered HOA.
So how do we go about getting this, if there is something?
$275.
For what?
To register with the Secretary of State.
No, I'm saying to get, if there is a lien against my house. How do we get that, I mean, who did it in the first place, and how did it happen?
That would take research.
Can I answer your question? There should not be a lien. It was done illegally. To have a lien.
I totally, that's my
Yeah,
point.
so you have to go to Chill County, you have to take paperwork. If I walked in there and said, I want to put a lien on Tracy's house. Okay, well, pardon language, who the hell are you? I'm the president of the homeowners association for Hunter Hills. Let me see your articles of incorporation where you're a member of that.
But for somebody to do that, took more effort than go to the door and go, hey, pay your dues or
Have
I'm gonna put a
things
lien on
checked
your
for
house.
sure.
None of that was ever provided to me.
So somebody right now has a lien on her house in our neighborhood.
What?
Somebody has a lien on her
Miss
house.
Wilson down our cul-de-sac,
Uh-huh.
when she sold her house, she had to pay $300. She had a lien against her house.
Was it from a homeowners
Yeah.
association?
That's what she said.
I would look into that. I mean, I know it's sold and
What's
it's
her name?
done, but.
What's her name?
Her name?
Brenda.
Brenda Wilson.
Thank you.
That's an easy record search. You can put Hunter
Yeah.
Hills in
Looked at
and
everybody in Hunter Hills and said.
and you can find
Sorry,
everything.
I talked to Mr. Ferguson, probably about a year ago. And he did say in whatever account that was originally set up, that there is money in it. And he actually told me an amount, I don't remember what it was, but I want to say that it was in the thousands. And I'm not exactly sure what's in there right now, but I mean, am I wrong? I mean, has he shared any of that information with you?
No, when a month ago, when I get penalty count, there was $1,000.50 in there. And that was prior to any notice that had gone out by me. And yeah, there's more in there now. There's a little over 2,000. But that's based off of dues that have been paid since that initial letter. Now, again, like I said at the beginning of the meeting, with whatever decision, I got the checkbook right here because my name's in on that checkbook. So if it's an idea of money back, I got it recorded. I can record it. Same kind of thing. But what Carol was saying about us developing a committee, I think that again that probably should be the next order of business that we do to be able to apparently continue the conversation as to what needs to happen next.
One more thing. Right before everybody walked in, you were saying something about having, or was it 10% of having it a minimum of 10% represented in the neighborhood. What did that have to do with?
That was correct. I'm sorry.
Okay, so last night, because I was supposed to do it a week ago and I couldn't get it done because tornadoes, I basically rewrote the bylaws for one of the HOAs that I work with because it had a lot of stuff in it that's just, it's talked about sending notices to residents by telegram. Okay, so I was rewriting it, and one of the things at the end is, it's how many people can make decisions, and at a meeting, if you've got a quorum, which is defined as 10% of the homes, which would be 5.2, if you've got a quorum, you can vote, and of that vote, you'd need a 66% or 2/3, of the vote to be passed.
What was that last part? You said 5.2 homes, basically, 10% of homes in our neighborhood.
10%, so you'd
And
have.
what's the second part, about 60?
It's 2/3 vote to pass a change of.
Oh, that group, it needs to be 2/3.
But that's from bylaws that are common, but you guys don't have bylaws. You don't have those rules. So, you can say, we want this only if 100% agree with it. You're not gonna get 100% agreement, so you're defeating yourself.
It's 2/3 of the quorum.
It's 2/3 of the quorum.
That's what she just
So
said.
you got 5 representatives,
It's not a
three vote this way,
There's no way. It's the neighborhood.
No, you gotta have 66 of the people, 2/3 of the people in the neighborhood. You got 5 representatives, but they can get power of the vote for a HOA, it has to be 2/3.
That's not what you're saying.
I've been in Highland Crest, but the Highland Crest, we had 2/3 vote.
Actually, that's correct. It's 2/3% vote of the membership of the homeowners association. If we have a homeowners association, if we make it voluntary or involuntary, the members of that are in. So make
Okay, but with that association, like if we're talking about forming a committee, that would be what the association would be.
From the committee though, is just to investigate what questions, right? It's not to, the committee is not gonna be the president, vice president, treasurer, all of that. It's just gonna be the people to investigate the issues.
Yeah, we're selecting the committee, right?
Association would mean all of the homes. If it was a voluntary HOA, every home. So to make any changes.
All right,
They would need, the owner would need to be there, and not the renter, the owner, so.
Okay, yeah. And y'all, we only have a few minutes left before we have to get the room back up. But if we do a committee, would we just ask for I guess 2 questions. One, if we have a committee of people in this room, do we have, get volunteers for that? And 2, how can we come back together to, with whatever's been found or decided upon? How can we get,
Where do we start with this cake that you're trying to make? There's things that are in the neighborhood how do you submit rules and bylaws to go by when they exist
That's what
today?
the
Yeah,
committee's
yeah.
gonna try to make a list of like, here's what we need to
Yes.
solve, here's the
Yeah.
steps, here's the next.
You're only
meeting.
bound to follow the covenants technically. It's just a matter, is there gonna be a group that helps everybody monitor the
Right.
following of the covenants, or is it just a free-for-all?
Who here's lived in the neighborhood more than 10 years?
Sir, I didn't
Who's lived in the neighborhood more than 10 years? Less than 5.
we're right at 5. Account?
Just looking to see, less than 5, are you open to an HOA? Are you open to an HOA?
Hey, if we put no renters in it, because
We can't do that either.
I picked up condoms and all that other stuff next to
Can't
that
kick out
house.
what you
It is gross.
I'm actually kind of open to it if we can.
I'm open to it if I'm getting something out of it, but for the last
If I'm getting
10,
something out of
15
it.
years, I've gotten nothing
Yeah.
out of it.
Depending on what it is.
I mean, we got the darkest neighborhood around because in the past, some people decided to shoot the lights out in the back of the cul-de-sac. Ex-sheriff, he said he didn't want a light. We're like, you put a shield
So, all
up.
right, so,
Other people took some of the
hey,
lights over.
we gotta let go of the
Right.
rules.
Yeah, we're spinning wheels, y'all. Do we wanna even visit having them, yes or no? I mean, it's a
Okay,
great dream.
hang on, let's focus for about 5 more minutes here, because we
Right.
only have about 5 more minutes. Go ahead.
How are we gonna put a committee together? Do we need to take volunteers right now?
I would say that, I mean, the best, route would be take volunteers right now.
How many,
Well, we take volunteers and then we set goals for that committee to accomplish.
Yes,
how many
agree.
residents, I mean, like, how many homes are represented right now?
50.
Look at the
Of
list.
right now.
I'm just curious.
Oh, gosh. Like people that are in here?
Yeah.
Just
How many
just
lots?
addresses.
Yeah, just addresses.
Ryan, do we know how many homes are in the subdivision?
48.
There's only 28 people right here.
48 lots.
So there's 20 different homes.
20 or 47.
So we have 20 of 48 represented, 21 of 48 represented.
Let's say a number of how many committees and vote to see if that's a good. 20 or
It's a whole word.
I'm going to say something else, since I think it's got
It's something,
Yeah.
it's
I think you should be on it, since you started all this. And I think they should be on it because she's very
How do we
knowledgeable.
develop this
And I don't know your name, but I
This is for
think
instance,
you
I
seem pretty
got a
knowledgeable.
trailer on my driveway.
I'm just asking if you know.
I would do it.
Bylaws and
And I don't
tons
know
of
you,
people
but I
that read to,
think.
where do you start establishing? We're
I
not
can't
gonna do that
understand.
anymore. It's been that way forever.
She's here for the look.
Is that for
What's the goal? If I'm gonna volunteer my time, because I work full time and I got two
the
kids,
first thing.
what's the goal?
Get order.
Do we want an HOA, yay or nay? And it's either gonna be covenants or we're gonna make bylaws. There's no grandfather, by the way. Gotta get that over our heads. You're not gonna build a grandfather. It's gonna be a rule
They wanted to step
or
out
not.
some porch.
Do we have a mean guy that's gonna enforce
What's his name?
it? Let's hope
George,
not.
did it
I'm
forever.
going to do bylaws.
It's
Several different
it is
aspects. Because that's fine. Money,
There's gotta be some.
somebody needs to audit that. I'll be happy to do it. I do accounting all day
I
long.
mean,
But,
you have to
If I was in a committee together and went through and said, these are what,
because people are mad, I mean, obviously, and we're spinning wheels here. Like, we've accomplished nothing in 1 hour other than determine that, yes, we don't have to.
So, the email that we sent out, committee, so that's progress. We're gonna make a committee, that's progress. Make a committee, let's get all those things together from that.
and then you have a committee that we don't have.
needs to go.
If we all,
Is that what we proposed?
I mean, I don't understand documents.
Unless they don't run,
Take the
you know what I
next
mean?
Use the highlight picture.
God, or the weather got too
Covenants,
upset.
anything you might want to change. And then email it to you. You can pin together the ones that we highlight.
And I was gonna say, I think that's a great suggestion, I was gonna do something kind of the opposite, that Gmail account that you set up, it would be very helpful to the committee if people would email what is your showstopper for the neighborhood? I will not have fill in the blank, and we'll see how many we get of the same thing.
You can
You
narrow it
know,
down.
help us if something is in the covenant that nobody puts down as being bad, and if most people come and say, we do not want, how many people do not want an HOA?
I think that needs to be the first question, because this is pointless.
We could send out a little survey. Okay, so let's just come up with a list of questions, send out a survey, and if you have additional comments.
We can provide
Anybody have access to monkey survey or anything?
Yeah. Anyhow, okay. Anybody else in here want to be on the committee?
I will help with whatever anyone needs.
What's your name?
Destiny.
Lexington?
I'll help out. She lives next door to me. Yes.
Okay, okay.
I will help with whatever I stay home if I have time, but I've not been here 10 years, so I don't know all the covenants, and I don't know back my head, but if you give me a task, I can roll off.
Okay, anybody else?
I'll help.
And you'll help.
Sleep, I woke up.
So I'll help you
I'm gonna go see if I can get it.
Anybody else on the committee?
Jacob will.
I'll help.
Don't think you want a huge group.
You just need a couple people, look, I'm not kidding, y'all. If you get 15 people in there, you just need a few,
That's right.
a few people that know what they're doing to come up.
Hey.
I would say four max.
Y'all,
I'm not.
look, I'm gonna be honest, as long as this committee is, you know, more than me, you know, and doing this today, like, I don't want to be a person in charge of anything here, all right? I am willing to serve, all right? I will and serve alongside whoever else volunteers, and I'll be happy to, because I have information, I'm happy to be, to be part of that, and again, part of a solution. But, yeah,
You and Lee and
Bobby and Jacob.
Volunteers, stand up, go to the front, and then everyone here can vote on whether we're gonna have this committee or not. Does that sound fair?
That sounds fair to me. All right.